Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and everybody else all across the world, welcome to the first ever 17th episode of the Screen and Pitch Project, featuring your hosts, MGK and.
Hey, all.
Well, guys, it is Thanksgiving season, it's Christmas season. People be eating a lot of turkeys, but we'll be talking chicken because we are going to draft our all time Premier League Tottenham 11. This continues our Big Six series. I know some people can always throw up the fact that Tottenham is the only club amongst the Big Six that has never won the Premier League title. So why are they a part of the Big Six? It's a fair argument. Revenue and fan base and stuff like that kind of dictates that they belong to it. So we're just going with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's no real argument from our side to defend the size of Tottenham, is there, Tayal?
I think Tottenham has always been uh, my favorite team to play against. Uh, White Hart Lane being 3-point lane under the Lampard Terry generation. Even the Hazard goal to help tie the game against Tottenham and then stop them from challenging Leicester. It feels like Tottenham has always been, despite how good they are, the whipping boy for Chelsea. And as a co-London team, it makes it especially joyful to see our dominance over them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they're not playing Chelsea, Tottenham has been a fun team to watch. So to give them credit, they generally play pretty attractive football. They've had some absolute superstar talent.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways I can appreciate it more because they're never a threat to actually win.
Yeah, exactly, right. Um, cool. There are some people who may, advocate for Tottenham being a truly big club, and our sponsor for today reaches out to those people. Do you find yourself arguing on behalf of people society deems evil, making excuses for criminals because you like to see both sides? Can't accept your friends being happy about something till you've made them analyze and dissect it from every possible angle? Then maybe the devil's advocates is your calling. From explaining why being picked last in gym class absolves the serial killer who targeted high school athletes from prison, to analyzing the wardrobe and chat history of people to make sure they weren't asking for it. Devil's advocates doesn't look at just both sides, it looks at every side. If you're still skeptical, you're the perfect hire. Devil's advocates, lawyer up for the lawless.
So you're saying we can't blame our parents for everything?
I mean, if it keeps you out of jail, you
That's
can,
true.
right? That's what the devil's advocates are here for. Devil's advocates bears no responsibility for you ending up in jail anyway. But, you know, that's just
Good
kind of what the
sponsor
devil's advocates
for
are.
Tottenham supporters.
Yeah. All right. Without further ado, let's get the board up and let's rock, paper, scissors to see who starts.
Rock, paper, scissors to start?
Yeah. Rock,
Rock, paper,
paper, scissors,
scissors,
shoot.
shoot. Yeah.
Okay.
Rock,
Rock,
paper,
paper,
scissors,
scissors, shoot.
shoot. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, ooh. Hmm.
So do you want to go
So
first or
first
second?
pick or second pick? You know what? I will take the first pick.
Okay.
Um, with the first pick of the Tottenham draft, I am taking one of the best strikers in Premier League history, one of the most complete forwards that has ever graced the game, the great British hope, Harry Kane. Um, Harry Kane for Tottenham, being the captain, being the talisman, has been a fantastic player, and often felt like Tottenham's let him down with the talent around him. It was great in the first season when he went to Bayern. He still couldn't win the title, the Bundesliga. But now, sadly, the trophies are starting to come for Harry Kane. And that honestly has been the only thing missing from his resume. From being on pace to potentially become the highest goal scorer in Premier League history before he left, to really kind of making Tottenham into the club that was on the borderline challenging for titles reaching a Champions League final. He was always kind of the superstar that held everything together. As soon as he left, you started to see so many more cracks in on the Spurs. And I think the completeness of his game, from dropping deep to linking up goals to assisting his wingers like Son, to then also being the clinical finisher. The only thing that's kept him from really being thought of, I think, on the same level as like a Thierry Henry, is the lack of the end championships. Um, so with the first pick, I think it's kind of a, even though there are a couple of other places to go, a no-brainer. I will be going for Harry Kane.
Yeah, I think Harry Kane is like an all-timer, right? Just one of the greatest strikers in English football history, in Premier League history. Would make an argument for all time. I'm not going to argue against that. He's just a phenomenal player. One of those players where you could actually see him defying time because he relies so much on his intelligence and movement and not just sheer pace and power. Left foot, right foot, heading, long shots, close range finishes, the assists, the vision. Like the guy could play as a 9 and a 10. Um, yeah, I mean, if you're going first for Tottenham, Harry Kane is a no-brainer. I would have picked him first had I gone first. But I'm very happy because I wanted to go second. So if I'd won the toss, I'd have gone second as well. Because I wanted to get these two guys in because I feel like there's no real competition for these two in the legacy or the history of the Tottenham, to quote Giorgio Chiellini. So on in my left midfield position, I shall pick uh, the first truly, I mean, with all due respect to Park Ji-sung, but the first truly global Asian superstar, that is Heung-min Son. Um, just one of the deadliest finishers we've seen in the last decade or so. Only Messi and Son sort of consistently overperform their XG at like season after season. Um, yeah, I kind of just hate him for missing against Man City 2 seasons ago because that could have won us the title. And it's like Son, it's Son. Of course he's going to score, and he didn't. But him and Kane formed this deadly combination, and he was just so terrifying. He had the pace, the dribbling, the tenacity, the beautiful curved shots. Son could do everything from the left wing. He could also play as a striker. But for me, he's playing on the left side of my attack because that's where he was at his best. And on the opposite side, it is one of the most terrifying, ferocious physical specimens the league has seen. At his peak, he was just dragging defenders who were clinging onto his shirt hopelessly and smashing goals into the top corner from while cutting in from the right, and that is Gareth Bale. Um, his Tottenham career might not have been as long as Son or Kane, but the peaks he hit were arguably higher or as high as at least Harry Kane, definitely probably higher than Son. Um, and then he went to Real Madrid and he just tore it apart there as well. Multiple Champions League and La Liga winning career there. At his peak, just a ferocious player, right? Started off as left back, had like a losing streak, and then he just evolved from there, went strength to strength, and just became this demon of pace and power. Yeah, so for me, it was a no-brainer. Like Harry Kane is the best Tottenham player, but I would have rather gone second and picked these two, and that's why I'm happy with the current order of the draft.
Yeah, I think I was debating between the exact same thing. Do I get Harry Kane or do I get Jungmin Son and Gareth Bale? To me, there was a fourth player that I wanted, so I decided to go first so that I could get him. But yeah, two fantastic players. Heung-min Son, one of the most likable superstars in the Premier League. Insane with both feet. Has one of the greatest goals I've seen when he kind of just dribbles the entire defense and then finishes. The pace, the power, and yeah, the XG over performance is truly basically just him and Messi, almost one of a kind because Messi is an alien.
Yeah,
Um, and then Gareth Bale, the just ferocity with which he entered the scene, almost looked like a high school kid playing against middle schoolers when it came to the physicality and presence, and just making everyone else look kind of puny and weak. But that was just because of how physically dominant Gareth Bale was. Played him could play kind of all over the pitch, especially I think in the Tottenham days. Um, and easy, I think, second and third pick, kind of no brainers. Incredible quality, could fit in. I think almost any all-time Premier League squad. All three of these players.
Yeah.
With my next pick, I think going to continue. I don't think this will be the biggest shock. I will be going in center mid for maybe a player with one of the greatest longevities of any any midfielder in history, and that will be Luka Modric. Um, Easy metronome player before he went to Real Madrid. He was kind of that creative force for Tottenham in the early 2010s. Just a wizard on the ball, complete magician, incredible set piece taker, just could make any pass on the field, insane work rate. And I mean, you can still see it now when most midfielders are kind of in the twilight of their career, running off to the US. Luka Modric is someone who can still make an impact day in and day out. And Tottenham is where kind of you saw the beginnings of this all-time great player's career. So in some ways, kind of similar to Gareth Bale, where he kind of proved himself at Tottenham and then got picked up by Real Madrid for kind of taking his game to the next level. Now the next pick is, I think, where things get interesting because I think the top four to me was pretty set in stone. And then the fifth pick is where you can go in a lot of different directions. Um, Here I am basically choosing between three or four different players, but I think all of them would be on your list, so I'm not sure who to pick. So I'm going to go with Kyle Walker as my right back. So maybe the best right back that the Premier League has seen in terms of full career performance. He is just defensively one of the strongest right backs. We've seen the pace, the physicality just unlock so much for the rest of the pitch because you have a one man stop of any counter attack that you see. Uh, Kyle Walker, I think he really did peak, I would say, under Pep. So his best years were under City, but even at Tottenham, he already had that pace, physicality, and kind of presence. And I think the difference between him and most of the other right backs was big enough for me to choose him next.
Yeah, I mean, great picks, right? Luka Modric. So Luka Modric was, I think, part of the first sort of Tottenham team that you started taking seriously. Like, oh shit,
Yeah.
these guys are good in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Um, and Kyle Walker is just an all-timer, right? I mean, both are all-timers. Luka Modric, not so much in the Premier League, but you could see he was so good. He was so complete. And yeah, him going to Real Madrid. Um, I think we knew he was good, but I don't know if anyone would have been like, oh, he's Real Madrid good. But then he went there in, I think, the same season as Ronaldo and Xabi Alonso and all these guys. And, outside of Ronaldo, he had the best career out of all of those Galacticos, right? Which is testament to how good he is. Um, the 2018 World Cup run is legendary. The guy won a Ballon d'Or, right? Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Luka Modric is one of the all-time great midfielders, and it all started, at least for us, by watching him at Tottenham. Not dissimilar to Kyle Walker, where he went on this like near decade of dominance with Man City, but we all saw him first at Tottenham, and it was like a no-brainer. When City signed Kyle Walker, it was like, yeah, of course they're signing Kyle Walker. He's awesome. So fast, so strong, so complete defensively, right? Just a blanket there. Like City could play up so high because they knew they had Walker coming back to cover pretty much the entire defense. He could lock up anyone on his day. Yeah, in my opinion, the greatest right back the Premier League has seen in terms of just the career he's had, right, and the longevity. All right, my next two picks. I think I'll just get this out of the way just because I love him so much. Musa Dembele for central midfield. Um, my heart broke when Fulham sold him. He was just amazing there. He was part of the greatest Tottenham side in Premier League history, which finished second, went to the Champions League final. At his best, you couldn't take the ball off him. He would just single-handedly break waves of pressure from deep in his like defensive third and carry the ball up till the final third. You could argue that he should have had greater end product, but that was the only thing that was missing in his locker. Um, he had injuries which kind of limited how had he stayed fit, he could have maybe spent maybe the last 3-4 years of his career at a slightly bigger club than Tottenham. Who knows, right? But one of my favorite players in general. Um, I am also going to now pick one of the two Tottenham captains to have won a Premier League trophy. The only thing is he didn't win it with Tottenham. I'm going to pick Sol Campbell for
Wow.
centre back. This was just a pick that the moment when we were doing the Tottenham drafts, I was like, yeah, I'm picking this guy because he spent 9 years at Tottenham, played more games for them than he did for Arsenal. Yet they call him Judas and whatnot because he left Tottenham on a free, joined Arsenal and won 2 Premier League titles, one of them unbeaten. One of the greatest defenders the Premier League has seen, one of England's greatest defenders, one of Tottenham's greatest defenders. But of course, they would never accept that, and for good reason. I completely understand. But how can I not draft Sol Campbell?
Of course, of course. Yeah, as an Arsenal fan, I think you've done your duty, and also added to the pain of Spurs fans. They're I think probably the most hated
Yeah,
player in
probably.
their Premier League history.
Yeah,
But yeah, when it comes to performance on the pitch, absolute stonewall defender, kind of the classic massive hulking Premier League centre back. Um, and a real force in the back. Moussa Dembele, one of the most kind of beautiful footballers to watch. What you want to see from a centre mid is the ability to hold the ball, play through pressure. It's I think some of the most beautiful things you see on a football pitch is that ability to make those quick turns and to shield the ball away. And he was one of the greatest players I've seen at it. Like one of the few players I would say who's almost like Eden Hazard in terms of using his body to shield the ball, break out of pressure, just insane instincts as well, in terms of just like a sixth sense of knowing where everybody around him was. So two great picks. The Dembele one I was definitely expecting. The Sol Campbell one I was kind of expecting, but I wasn't sure which direction you would go in. For my next pick, I think I might actually just take the successor to Luka Modric in the midfield, the player who actually seemed to go on a similar trajectory to him. They maybe didn't quite reach the same heights as Luka Modric, but had that creative mindset and the ability to create anything from midfield. Has been through a lot, has ended up playing for other Premier League teams as well. But I think his real peak and where he looked like he might be one of the best up and coming midfielders in the world was at Tottenham. So I will be taking Christian Eriksen. So he came in right after Luka Modric left, I think, and really established himself at the Spurs. Just a fantastic midfielder, creative linchpin for the team, and it felt like, hey, how did they do it again? They just had Modric. Modric went to Real Madrid, and they have someone who can at least play a facsimile of the role and not embarrass himself. Um, Ericsson was so fun to watch, incredible at set pieces. I think having Luka Modric and Ericsson uh, targeting Harry Kane, yeah, I just have like a fantastic attack already set up with whoever now I struggle to fill at the other positions. For my second pick, and this is where I wasn't 100% sure which direction to go. I think basically I felt like okay, these were kind of my set in stone picks. I'll take someone from a little before I was fully into football, so I saw a little bit of how he played, but kind of on and off. And I'll take Ledley King as in for the center back position. Um, so he was Tottenham's first choice for almost for I think over a decade, and was the was a very kind of standard, solid presence for the club. Uh, I think even compared to Sol Campbell, I don't see that much of a drop off between King and Sol Campbell's best years. King just was a much more injury riddled player, and of course didn't have the title winning with Arsenal to boost up his resume. But honestly, without the injuries, he may have not been a Tottenham player for so long. But I think having that level of talent this late into the draft, Ledley King is going to be my first center back.
Yeah. Yeah, Ericsson was probably going to be my next pick. He's just insane, right? I think they spent, I think, the bail money on a bunch of players. Um, Soldado, I think Nasser Chadley, couple of others I don't remember, but they also spent it on Ericsson. Not a lot of money. He came in from Ajax, and he was so good, right? Just consistent, hardworking, but also extremely creative off on the ball, right? So you could rely on him to put in a shift defensively, press well, but also be a creative force, and he could also score the odd free kick, long range shooter, just an all round, like one of just football's like universally likable guys, right? So yeah, fantastic pick. Ledley King, I remember people. I mean, I started watching around the time when Ledley King was around, and I remember people saying that he was so good that he wouldn't train at all because he was in so much pain because of his knees, and then he would just rock up and play a Premier League game with no issues and like pull out like 8 on 10, 9 on 10 performances. I remember Harry Redknapp talking about it like he was insane, and essentially that if his knee or his knees, I don't know if it was both of them, weren't shot, he would be like the best centre back that England had during that time. And this was when they had Terry, Ferdinand, Campbell, and all these guys. Um, so yeah, I mean, like again, I don't remember watching him as much, but I remember that his reputation because of these circumstances was crazy. And I remember him being like one of those guys who would just put his body on the line to get Spurs over the line in those 90 minutes, right? So like fantastic pick. If injury hadn't affected him so much, then who knows what the limit was. On that note, I am actually going to pick someone who had a tragic fall off because of not injury related reasons, but just as traumatizing. But when he was good, he looked like a world beater. He looked like an all timer. He looked like someone who could play for any team in the world. For 3-4 seasons, Dele Ali, who's going to be my other midfielder, was phenomenal for Tottenham, right? Just phenomenal. Like you were just like in awe of what this guy could do. And man, those 3-4 seasons, this kid was a world beater. He looked like he could be the best player on a team that had Son, Kane, Eriksson, Dembele, and all these guys. He knew where the goal was. He could score. He could assist. It was almost like the second coming of Frank Lampard. Um, like maybe Jude Bellingham for like modern day fans. That's the closest I can kind of think of for for like a Dele Ali esque sort of playing style. Now, my other pick, I can go in a number of directions, I think, because there are lots of positions left. But I think what I'll do is I will go for um, I think one of the Premier League's highest goal scorers, and that is Jermaine Defoe. Um, he's not your archetypical, Premier League centre forward where he's like 6'4", battering ram. He was like 5'8", 5'9". He was sharp. He was not especially quick, but he was very, very, um, very intelligent with his movements. But what Jermaine Defoe knew to do and what Jermaine Defoe did was score goals. Right? The guy would just keep banging in goals. I think he's the only guy to score 5 goals in a Premier League game. I think he scored against Wigan when they beat them 9-1. I'm not sure if I remember that correctly. But Jermaine Defoe, I think he had 2 spells at Tottenham, and in both spells, all he did was score goals. Right? That's all he does. Jermaine Defoe is your ruthless goal scoring machine. And before Harry Kane came along, arguably Tottenham's greatest forward in the Premier League era. So yeah, these are my two picks.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Jermaine Defoe as just someone who would come up with goals, and his strike rate was just really, really good. He was very prolific, even though he wasn't the most physically dominant. But yeah, very strong memories of Defoe just turning out goals. Dele Alli, definitely have very, very strong memories of him, and how he really looked like he was on a superstar trajectory. He was going to be one of the best players in the world, and his drop off is kind of insane to think about now. But he was just magical in the midfield, linking up with Harry Kane, finishing, making those runs into the box, being a great just attacking midfielder, so complete, physically very strong as well. But yeah, I guess he started his career pretty early, and his body just couldn't keep up, and I think some other issues also came in the way. But for that period at Tottenham, he was just incredible. Okay, for my next pick, uh, there are kind of two directions I was thinking about. One is, do I just finish uh, a position where I think there's a solid drop off after him, or do I go for someone else? Um, I think I'll take my left back, Danny Rose. Again, I feel like there's a solid drop off from Danny Rose to any other left back at Tottenham, and he really was kind of again a club like steward for over a decade, just day in and day out, giving a very good performance at left back, everything you could want from a player, putting in that solid fullback shift. Again, maybe not the most not quite the same creative level as some modern fullbacks, but still quite good for his era. Danny Rose was at Tottenham for, I believe, over for almost 13 or 14 years.
Yeah.
And even though he was loaned out a couple of times, and really in terms of the best Tottenham teams, I always felt like Danny Rose was the left back when they were going towards the both the Champions League success and each of their kind of title threatening runs. So to me, Danny Rose was kind of a decent gap up between any other left back. So he's my next pick. And now, after Danny Rose, I will go for. Hmm, do I go? Okay, so I think after Danny Rose, I'm going to do something a little strange, and I'm going to take Pochettino as my coach,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because I think, is such a clear cut above all other uh, uh, Tottenham managers that he's kind of a no-brainer pick. The level of output and quality and constant threat that Pochettino was able to get for Tottenham year over year, threatening in both the Champions League as well as the Premier League, despite not having the same budget and resources as most of his competition. I think Poch was a fantastic manager, played beautiful football. Tottenham was really known for playing like this aggressive, really watchable style under him. So both style and results wise, I don't think there's any manager even close to accomplishing what Poch did at Tottenham.
Yeah. No. Honestly, great picks. Danny Rose in his debut scored that absolute screamer against Arsenal. So, I will always remember that. Um, and Pochettino was the manager of the greatest Tottenham side in Premier League history. So, solid picks. Keeping in mind your statement about there being drop-offs, I think I need to do this. So I will make my next pick the goalkeeper Hugo Lloris. Um, because I think in terms of the fullbacks, I think you have the two best fullbacks that Tottenham have had. So I don't want to give you the best goalkeeper as well. Hugo Lloris was the Tottenham captain, and at his peak, France is number one, Tottenham's number one, and just a super agile, cat-like reflexes goalkeeper, right? Kind of similar to David De Gea in the sense that he could just make spectacular saves out of nowhere. Towards the end was very error prone, and that led to his exit. But at his peak, which was a good 5, 6, 7 years, just one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Um, my other pick, which is going to be the other Tottenham captain who's won a Premier League, except that he did this with Manchester United, is Teddy Sheringham. I know very little about Teddy Sheringham. Apart from that, he sounds like someone who could have a prominent part to play in Robin Hood. And then I looked at his record, and he has like 100 plus Premier League goals, about 90 of those for Tottenham. So he had two spells at Tottenham. In between, he went to United, won the treble, and then came back. Um, yeah, I mean, could play as a second striker, could play as a striker, is about 6 feet tall, which is a good complement to Defoe's lack of height. And I think that rounds out my attack quite nicely to have like a like a true legend of Tottenham sort of leading the charge and possibly even wearing the armband. It's between him and Lloris, right? So yeah, Teddy Sheringham.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, I was basically looking at Teddy Sheringham and another player. And I guess now that you've taken him, your attack is pretty set, so I can now see how I want to uh, play with those positions.
Yeah,
Um, okay. And Lloris, of course, just a great goalkeeper. France for both club and country, very reliable. Just I think he was always like a half step below the best goalkeepers, but just a half step below, but almost in that conversation. So he was always like the goalkeeper who's almost in the conversation of the best goalkeepers in the world, which is a fantastic place to be.
yeah,
For my next pick, just looking at it a little strategically, I think the only players we overlap are on center back. I wonder if you're thinking about the same two Belgians that I am. Uh, I'll take Toby Alderweireld.
fair
Um,
enough.
So yeah, part of a very strong, solid backline for Tottenham during his Premier League time. Formed a very solid backline with country mates, and I think just kind of more of a solid, no nonsense defender. Not the most spectacular, never in the conversations of like best centre back in the world, but someone who put in a shift for club and country, knew his role, did it well, and someone who I think just complements the rest of the team quite well. I think Ledley King is definitely going to be the more Rolls Royce defender here, but I think Toby Alderweireld would be a solid partner. Um, uh, with Toby, I'm going to now add to the team, and so my second pick is Robbie Keane, incredible talisman for Tottenham. Was basically who I was choosing between with Teddy Sheringham as my second striker. I think he'll complement Harry Kane really well because he had that ability to drop deep, do the link up play, and just was someone who looked like he would give anything for the badge. Which is why even though he wasn't there for that long, he became Tottenham captain for a while. Very prolific, scored over 100 goals as well, and was, I think, part of the momentum to really turn Tottenham into a Big Six club. So he was kind of one of those first few players who was like, oh, okay, Tottenham really is kind of moving up in the Premier League rankings. And I think having kind of this borderline world class player on the team was kind of a statement of where Tottenham wanted to go.
Yeah, no, fantastic picks, right? Toby Alderweireld was part of a very good Tottenham defense, and we can't forget that when they finished second and stuff like that, they had a very strong defense. Um, and Toby Alderweireld was a linchpin of that defense, just an amazing, you know, centre back. Um, he was also part of the Belgium golden generation, like Dembele, like Hazard, and all these guys. The whole reason they finished third in the 2018 World Cup is because they had such incredible players. Toby Alderweireld being one of them. Um, Robbie Keane was one of the first iconic celebration players that we were introduced to as well. The cartwheel into the guns. I think it holds up. I think it's still one of the coolest celebrations. Like, um, yeah, and just a really good, tricky, dribbly sort of forward, right? A sharp contrast to the typical Premier League forward, much like Defoe. Um, really good player. Um, yeah, I mean, just one of those guys who's just like who made an impression on me when I first started watching football. So I will always rate Robbie Keane because of that. Okay, now I have four spots left, and I'm debating what to do with two of them. So I'll just pick the other two, which are quite straightforward in my eyes. So for right back, I pick Kieran Trippier. While he may have stints with Atletico and Newcastle that he's probably known better for, he was part of the best Tottenham side around, which went to the Champions League final. Um, and he adds an insane free kick option to the repertoire of players we already have, right? So I'm not going to complain about that. Um, Again, just a top quality right back. Um, he would have had much more recognition if he wasn't around at the same time as Trent, Kyle, and Reece James for both England and the Premier League. But otherwise, what a quality player, right? And for manager, I'm just going to go for Harry Redknapp. I think before Pochettino came in, he was the manager I associate with Tottenham the most. Um, he had a likable air about him. Um, he kind of looked like Droopy, which also made him likable in my eyes. Um, and like again, he was the manager when the first oh shit Tottenham are actually good team came about, which had a few players which are not in this list so far, but I will call them out if you don't pick them. But yeah, Harry Redknapp. I think I think Ange Postecoglou might say that he might have a claim. I don't know. Conte and Mourinho both have greater pedigree as managers, maybe, but for Tottenham, I feel like Harry Redknapp is like more iconic than possibly anyone but Pochettino.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think Redknapp, very solid pick. I now can see the droopy face a little bit more now that you mention it. But yeah, I think after Pochettino makes sense for the pick. And Trippier, yeah, he's shown his quality uh, post his Tottenham career as well. And again, feels like a player who may have peaked post Tottenham, which really seems like kind of shows where the Spurs have been for most of our lifetimes, which is they've had these incredible talents early on in their career who end up sometimes peaking at other clubs, but you really see them for the first time prove their quality at Tottenham. Okay, for my next picks, I think it's the wingers and the goalie. So I'll go with maybe he never was as impactful as people would have liked, but he has, I think, maybe scored the greatest goal for Tottenham in terms of importance. And I will go for Lucas Moura and the raw pace as my left mid. From that incredible comeback in the Champions League to just scoring these wonder goals out of nowhere and being able to run at any backline and terrify them. I think Lucas Moura was always someone you just wanted a little bit more out of, but you just saw flashes of greatness. I think sometimes his finishing, his decision making was not always perfect, but
Yeah,
I mean, he was the reason why Tottenham made the Champions League final more than anyone else, just because of the absurd comeback that they
yeah.
managed to do. Um, and honestly, pace terrifies, and he is maybe along with Kyle Walker, two of the fastest players I've seen in the Premier League. Now, for my second pick, I was basically choosing between a couple of players. Some I've seen, some I haven't. I think in terms of reputation, I could move Lucas Moura to the right and put in David Ginola just because he is probably the most highly regarded player still left in the draft. But honestly, not a very long Tottenham stint, and maybe not really known as much for his time at Tottenham. There were a couple of others like Aaron Lennon, who I really liked, but I mean, was always kind of again one step off the top. Eric Lamela, who has scored some incredible goals, but also again very inconsistent. Um, okay, maybe I'll just because I think since I'm struggling a little bit here, I'm just going to go for name recognition, and I'm going to go for David Ginola, who played largely before I was a big Premier League fan, but was regarded as one of the premier talents uh, to come into the Premier League when he did. I think he's more known for his time with, I think, PSG, but was part of the move that really made the Premier League into what it is after Cantona also came. So part of the like top French players moving to the Premier League. Played a little bit for Newcastle and then moved to the Spurs. So the main reason I'm picking him is he was named the Players Player of the Year in 1999 when he was with the Spurs. So that pedigree kind of surpassed anyone else, and I'm not going to comment much more than that.
Fair enough. David Ginola also is like a actor, model, and football pundit. And now that I'm looking at his Wikipedia, I can see why. So yeah, I
Oh yeah,
mean, like whatever Tayal said about David Ginola, right? I don't know much about him. I actually thought of Newcastle when you said David Ginola. I didn't realize he played for Tottenham as well. Lucas Moura, like you said, pace kills, right? Pace puts fear into the heart of defenders of opposing teams. And Lucas Moura had pace to burn. And when he was like one of the great super subs, right? Like um, he could never quite nail down a starting spot consistently for Tottenham. But when he was on it, he was scary, right? Aaron Lennon was a good shout. Um, I would have, if I was in your position, now that you've picked them, I can say this. Rafael van der Vaart. He was only there
mm,
for 2 seasons, but he scored double-digit goals in both of them. And he was part of the Tottenham team that got good, right? So it was Modric,
yeah,
Bale, van der Vaart,
Van der
I
Vaart.
think Defoe, and so on. But hey, I'm happy you didn't pick him. Um, Now, there were several ways in which I could go with this. The whole reason I wanted to leave this to the end is just because I was debating on this. I don't think there's a lot so to sort of go. Essentially, my first option was to pick a conventional left back in Benoit Asuakoto and then put Jan Vertonghen in centre back. But then I felt like Benoit Asuakoto for like an all-time Tottenham 11. I mean, it's not a bad shout, but I was like, oh, maybe we can do better. So what I decided to do is in centre back, I'm going to pick a player who played for Tottenham and then went to Bayern Munich, Eric Dyer, who can sometimes be dire, but for the most part was actually really, really good. And I think is again like one of those players who gets underrated a little bit just because they played for Tottenham. And in left back, I'm going to have Jan Vertonghen, which is where he played for Belgium. So um, with that, my backline has a very centre back heavy aerial duels winning feel. So Trippier can probably push forward a little bit, and these three can sort of sit back. Um, and I don't know, like you have Son, Bale, and the front line to do their thing. But yeah, that is my final two picks.
Nice. Yeah, Jan Vertonghen, part of the duo, especially with Toby. Never really thought of him as a left back, but I guess he did play for Belgium there. I always thought he was kind of slow, so kind of surprised to see him at left back. Uh, but I may be misremembering.
I
Eric
mean, he wasn't
Dyer,
very fast, I think, but like
he played there.
he played there at least for like Belgium for some times, and like I was
Okay.
like, you know what, fine, fuck it, like
Yeah.
better than
Eric
Esuakoto.
Dyer, yeah, that's true. And I guess the only other option was really like Ben Davies or someone.
Oh
Uh,
shit, I forgot about Ben Davies. But yeah, no, I think Jan Vertonghen and Eric Dyer have more merit.
yeah, yeah. Eric Dyer, I mean, very talented player. Definitely known for making, as you said, some dire mistakes. But you could see the talent on the pitch. I think better on the ball than a lot of center backs, and solid physical presence. So definitely can see the reasoning behind the pick. Um, to end my squad, I think there only really is one other option for goalkeeper. Unless I want to go for like Brad Friedel and represent America. But I will go for Paul Robinson. So, and again, the mid 2000s goalkeepers, so right before Lloris, helped kind of bolster Tottenham, bring them to what they was kind of part of the team that started to show what Tottenham could be, and kind of reliable shot stopper, goalkeeper for the Spurs. Didn't wasn't really a modern day goalkeeper, but could basically stop goals. And until I think he made a big mistake for England, was part of like the England number one rotation before Joe Hart took over.
Yeah. I think also he could kick the ball like really, really long. Like
Oh yeah,
he
yeah,
could
yeah.
kick
You're
the
right.
ball a
You're right.
mile.
Yeah,
I actually forgot about him because my backup keeper for Loris was Brad Friedel. I was like, yeah, if you
Brad
don't get
Friedel, the American hope. Yeah,
Yeah. Because I remember him much more distinctly. He used to play for Blackburn, at least when I started watching, and then he moved to Tottenham. So that was my pick. But hey, Paul Robinson kicked the ball a
Big
mile.
giant bald head. Yeah, I don't know. I just
Yeah,
remember Brad Friedel's like shiny head.
yeah. All right. So that's our Tottenham 11. I think it was like Man United you won, Liverpool I won, and then City and Tottenham I think are fairly
Fairly
balanced.
even.
I think there are certain areas of the pitch where there are clear victors, like the wing backs you clearly win. The wide forwards, I think, safe to say I
Oh yeah.
win. But but the rest of it, you can debate, which is what we want in these all-time drafts, right? So, all right, guys, that was our Tottenham all-time Premier League 11. Tottenham fans, let us know if you've missed out on anyone. We're not Tottenham fans, so. But yeah, guys, that's our list. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notify bell, all that good stuff, and we'll see you soon.
Peace. Okay.